teenager rushes to save a girl who runs into the street and quickly takes her to the hospital. The doctor is shocked to discover the real reason she ran away. The early morning light in Mesa, Arizona, had a comforting softness as it filtered through pale curtains and rested on Emma Thompson's kitchen table. She took a moment to appreciate the quiet hum of the air conditioning and the scent of toast rising from the toaster. In the distance, a faint sound of traffic signaled the world was waking up, people commuting, heading to work or school. Emma placed 2 cups on the table, one with coffee for herself and another with milk for Ava, her 4-year-old niece. Ava was not in the kitchen yet. She stood in the hallway, fiddling with the hem of her light blue cotton dress, eyes lowered. She had been living with Emma for a few weeks now, ever since the terrible accident that had taken her parents. Emma's younger sister and brother-in-law had died in a collision that was as sudden as it was devastating. Emma still choked up when she thought of them, but she tried not to cry in front of Ava. The child needed stability now, not more tears. Walking over, Emma knelt so that she could meet Ava's gaze. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said softly. Ava glanced up, her brown eyes dark and cautious. She did not respond, but Emma was not surprised. The talkative, giggling girl she once knew had retreated inside herself, speaking rarely and always in hushed tones since the funeral. Each day, Emma tried to coax her gently out of her shell, but the progress was slow. She guided Ava to the table. As they sat, Emma smoothed the child's hair and tried to sound cheerful. "I thought we could visit the little park near the old church today. It's quiet, and there are flowers blooming this time of year." Ava nodded slightly, not showing excitement, but at least acknowledging the plan. Emma knew that leaving the house was a step. The past few weeks, they had ventured out only for errands. The child seemed nervous outside, as if the open air might hold unknown terrors. In truth, Emma suspected Ava's anxiety tied closely to the memory of that fatal accident. She had not been in the car herself, but she knew the story. A truck's horn blaring a warning too late, the screech of brakes, the horrific impact. Ava had survived physically unscathed, but her world had shattered. Now, loud noises, sudden movements, and anything resembling chaos unnerved the girl. After breakfast, Emma helped Ava put on her little pink sneakers, the same pair her mother had bought months before. She packed a small bag with tissues, a bottle of water, and a sun hat for Ava. Nothing extraordinary, just small items to show the child she was cared for. The walk to the park took them along a quiet residential street lined with stucco houses and succulents in terracotta pots. The desert climate of Arizona meant bright sunlight and warm breezes even early in the day. Emma slowed her pace so Ava could observe her surroundings without feeling rushed. She pointed out a hummingbird dipping into a flower. "Look, sweetie," Emma said softly. "See how fast its wings move?" Ava followed her finger, and for a moment, Emma caught a flicker of interest on the girl's face. It was enough to encourage her. They reached the park, a modest patch of green in a city where lush grass was often a luxury. A few trees offered shade over a couple of benches and a simple playground. A small slide, a pair of swings, and a low climbing frame shaped like a turtle. Beyond the park was a street with moderate traffic, not overly busy, but enough cars that you might hear the occasional horn or engine rev. Emma guided Ava toward a bench near a bed of marigolds. "We can sit here for a bit. Enjoy the fresh air," she said. Ava stood close, her small hand gripping Emma's fingers. From here, they could see the slide, the flowers, and the sky overhead. The world looked peaceful. Emma hoped that this gentle outing might restore a bit of Ava's trust in life outside the walls of their home. But as the minutes passed, Emma noticed Ava's posture. The child's shoulders were tense. She kept glancing toward the street. Emma wondered if Ava was listening to something distant. Indeed, now and then, a muted honk drifted from the nearby road. Emma reached down, giving Ava's hand a reassuring squeeze. "It's okay, sweetheart. It's just cars out there." Ava's eyes flickered with worry. Emma had come here thinking it would be quiet enough, safe enough. She wanted this to be a positive memory, a step forward. But something in Ava's stance warned her that the child's fear was deeper than Emma had imagined. The sound of traffic, once background noise in everyday life, was charged with meaning, a reminder of loss and danger. Still, Emma tried to remain optimistic. She told Ava about the marigolds, about how the color yellow symbolized warmth and hope. She spoke softly, taking her time, hoping her voice might anchor the girl. Ava listened, silent but alert, as if waiting for something to confirm or deny her fear. As the morning sun climbed higher, Emma decided they would stay just a short while before heading home. Small steps. She had learned that with trauma you couldn't rush. Ava would bloom again in time, Emma told herself. She just needed patience, safety, and love. A gentle breeze ruffled the marigolds, spreading their scent through the mild air. Emma tried to maintain a calm demeanor, telling Ava small stories about when she and Ava's mother were children. She kept the stories light, focusing on harmless adventures and simple pleasures. Ava listened, her eyes sometimes drifting to Emma's face, other times returning to the distant street. "Your mom and I used to pick wildflowers when we were your age," Emma said softly. "We would race down the block to see who found the prettiest one." She smiled, remembering those simpler days. Ava blinked, perhaps wondering what her mother had been like as a child, or maybe just trying to connect these memories to something familiar. Then it happened. A truck approached from the main road, its engine rumbling. The sound was not incredibly loud, but distinct. Emma barely noticed at first, just another vehicle passing through. But Ava tensed, her grip on Emma's hand tightening. Emma looked down to see the child's knuckles whiten, her brow creasing. A sudden honk cut through the morning's softness. Sharp, urgent, and hollow. It came from somewhere near the intersection down the block. Emma's heart sank as she felt Ava's whole body recoil. The child's breath caught in her throat, her eyes widening, fixed on a point unseen. Emma realized with startling clarity that the horn's blare wasn't just noise to Ava. It was the call of a nightmare, echoing in daylight. "It's all right," Emma whispered, bending down. "I'm here." It's just a truck honking at a car. "They do that sometimes." She forced a reassuring smile. But Ava's gaze was distant, as if caught in a memory. Emma didn't know exactly what Ava recalled of the accident, but she knew the sound of a horn was tied irreversibly to that horror. Another car horn sounded, less severe but still noticeable. Ava let go of Emma's hand and pressed both hands to her ears, her body trembling. Emma tried to guide Ava behind the bench, to shield her from the street view. Maybe if Ava couldn't see the road, she would calm down. But the sound lingered in the girl's mind, and her panic rose swiftly. Emma tried gentle words. "Sweetheart, I know it's scary, but we're safe. We're just at the park." Yet Ava wouldn't meet her eyes now. Instead, the girl began to back away, her small feet shuffling in the grass as if seeking escape. Emma reached out, intending to scoop Ava into her arms and leave the park entirely. This had been too soon. She should have picked a quieter place, maybe even skipped the outing. But Ava slipped from her grasp, skittering backward, desperate to distance herself not from Emma but from the unseen terror the noise represented. A distant car backfired. A sharp pop, and Ava's eyes flared with panic. Emma tried to move faster, but a moment of uncertainty slowed her. She needed to calm Ava, not frighten her further. Yet Ava's fear had reached a breaking point. Without warning, the child turned and bolted away from the bench, dashing across the grass toward the sidewalk. "Ava!" Emma cried, voice sharp with alarm. She shot to her feet and ran after her niece. The child's small legs moved impossibly fast, fueled by panic. Emma's heart hammered as she realized Ava was heading toward the street, not away from it. The very place that triggered her fear was now the site of her frantic escape. Emma raced forward, arms outstretched, begging silently that Ava would stop, that a miracle would occur, that no cars would be speeding by. She could already see the cars glinting in the sunlight, imagine the screech of tires. Fear for Ava's safety pulsed through her veins, making her feet feel heavy. She stumbled, recovered, and kept running. They were feet apart, a few more strides, but Ava reached the curb first. Emma shouted again, voice cracking, "Ava, stop!" But the girl, lost in her terror, either did not hear or could not process the words. Time slowed in Emma's mind as she watched Ava step off the curb. A car rushed by, its engine rising in pitch as the driver accelerated through the intersection. Emma's heart leapt to her throat, every nerve screaming. She lunged forward, but she knew it wasn't enough. She wouldn't reach Ava in time. Across the street, a teenage boy named Daniel had been riding his bicycle toward the park. He was on his way to school, his mind drifting through mundane thoughts. A history test, a friend's birthday, the weekend ahead. As he approached the intersection, he noticed the small figure rushing into the street. He saw a woman running, terror etched in her posture. Without pausing to think, Daniel threw down his bike, letting it clatter onto the sidewalk, and charged forward. A car's brakes squealed, the driver slamming down on the pedal, tires smoking. Ava stood frozen now, in the middle of the road, too petrified to move. Daniel sprinted, arms pumping, his school bag bouncing against his back. With a leap, he reached Ava, scooping her into his arms and twisting his body to shield her. They tumbled onto the asphalt just as the car came to a halt mere inches away. For an agonizing moment, nobody breathed. Then the driver inside the car, pale and shaking, realized he had stopped in time. Emma, still on the sidewalk's edge, let out a choked sob and rushed forward. Daniel got to his feet, holding Ava, who clung to him with a trembling grip, her face buried in his shirt. Emma's legs felt weak. She reached them, tears streaming down her cheeks, words tangling in her throat. She gently took Ava from Daniel's arms. The child was shaking violently, soft whimpers escaping her. Emma pressed Ava close, murmuring nonsense words of comfort and relief. Her mind reeled with gratitude and shock. This stranger, this young boy, had saved Ava's life. "Thank you," Emma managed to say to Daniel, her voice barely steady. He nodded, breathing hard, eyes wide. He looked no older than 16 or 17, with wiry limbs and messy brown hair. He swallowed, trying to find words. He began, but nothing coherent came out. He had acted on instinct, and now he stood there, heart pounding, aware that he had stepped into a stranger's crisis. Cars that had stopped behind the scenes started to move again, drivers craning their necks to ensure everyone was safe. The driver who had nearly hit Ava rolled down his window, face ashen. "Is she okay?" he asked hoarsely. Emma managed a nod, tears glistening. "Yes, thank you, we're all right," she said, voice quavering. The driver murmured an apology and drove off slowly, shaken. On the sidewalk, a few onlookers hovered, unsure if they should help. Emma held Ava, who was still sobbing quietly, gripping Emma's blouse with desperate fingers. She stroked the child's hair, whispering, "It's over, sweetheart. You're safe." Daniel remained close, uncertain if he should leave or stay. Emma, catching her breath, turned to him. "I can't thank you enough," she said. "You saved my niece's life. I don't know what would have happened." Her voice broke again, and Daniel glanced down, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. "It's okay," he managed softly. "I just saw her and I had to do something." He shrugged helplessly, as though he couldn't understand his own heroism. Emma looked at Ava's tear-streaked face. The girl had retreated deeper into silence, trembling in her arms. Emma knew the child needed more than just to be carried home. She needed to be checked for shock or injuries. Maybe the stress had harmed her. Emma's mind raced. The hospital was not far. They could hail a taxi. Looking at Daniel with gratitude and a hint of pleading, she asked, "Could you come with us? Just until I know she's all right." She didn't know why she wanted him to stay. Maybe because he was a part of this moment now, a lifeline in the chaos. Daniel hesitated, thinking of school, but the look in Emma's eyes decided it. "Of course," he said quietly. He would deal with the consequences later. Right now, a terrified child needed reassurance. They walked slowly back toward the quieter street where Emma could find a taxi. Ava in her arms felt light as a feather, but Emma knew that inside, the child carried a heavy weight of fear and grief. Daniel followed, pushing his bike alongside, silent and watchful. Emma glanced at him over her shoulder, grateful for the unspoken understanding. He didn't pepper her with questions, didn't demand explanations. He was just there, a calming presence after the whirlwind of panic. Emma hailed a taxi, and they climbed in, settling Ava on her lap. Daniel laid his bike against a lamppost, securing it with a flimsy lock he had, and slid onto the seat beside Emma. The driver looked in the rearview mirror, concerned. "Everything okay, miss?" Emma nodded tightly. "Just take us to the nearest hospital, please." Inside the taxi, Ava's sobs diminished to hiccups. She buried her face against Emma's shoulder, her small body still rigid with tension. Emma stroked her hair, humming softly. She had read somewhere that humming a gentle tune could help soothe children, something about the vibration and familiarity. She picked a lullaby Ava's mother used to sing, a simple melody that once brought smiles. Daniel sat quietly, hands clasped in his lap. He sensed Emma's fear and protective energy radiating toward the child. He wondered what had happened to make the girl so terrified. He picked up fragments from Emma's shaky voice as she tried to reassure Ava. "We'll see a doctor, sweetheart. We'll make sure you're okay." She didn't say more, not yet. Daniel respected her silence. The taxi pulled up to the hospital entrance. A white building with sliding glass doors welcomed them into a world of antiseptic smells and hushed voices. Emma paid the driver, thanking him, and they entered together. Daniel felt out of place here. He was just a kid who had been on his way to school a half hour ago. Yet he knew leaving would feel wrong. Emma had asked him to stay, and he would, at least until he knew Ava was not harmed. Inside the emergency room, Emma approached the reception desk. A nurse with tired but kind eyes looked over her glasses at them. Emma explained that her niece had been nearly hit by a car, that she was very upset and possibly in shock. The nurse directed them to a waiting area and promised a pediatric specialist would see them soon. They sat down on plastic chairs beneath bright fluorescent lights. Ava nestled into Emma's arms, eyes closed, breathing shallow. Emma worried about internal reactions. Could fear like this cause lasting damage? She didn't know. She just knew they needed help understanding what Ava was feeling and how to calm her world again. Daniel hovered a seat away, giving them space. He wondered if he should call his parents. Probably. They would be upset he missed school, but once they heard why, they would understand. Still, he waited, not wanting to break the fragile calm that settled over them. Occasionally, Emma glanced his way and offered a grateful half-smile. The ER's television mumbled softly about local weather. Another child cried in a corner. A nurse soothed a patient behind a curtain, and the air smelled of cleaning solution and faint hints of antiseptic. Emma thought of how quickly this morning had spiraled out of control. She had wanted to give Ava a gentle outing, a taste of normalcy. Instead, they had ended up here shaken and uncertain. At least Ava was physically safe now. Emma reminded herself that this was what mattered most. The child was alive, unharmed beyond fright. And yet, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this terror Ava carried was deeper than a single incident. The car horns at the park, the panic in her eyes. These hinted at something more, a wound left unhealed since her parents' death. Emma stroked Ava's back. "We'll figure this out," she whispered. "We'll find a way to help you." Daniel heard her words, though they were not directed at him. He felt a surge of admiration for this woman and her quiet strength. He hoped that whatever explanation the doctors provided would lead them towards something better for Ava. After what he witnessed, he suspected Ava needed more than just a physical checkup. She needed understanding. They did not wait long before a pediatric nurse called them back to an examination room. Emma carried Ava, and Daniel followed a step behind, wondering if he should remain in the waiting area. But the nurse waved him along, perhaps mistaking him for a family friend. Emma didn't object. She seemed relieved not to be alone. In the small exam room, decorated with cartoon murals and bright posters, Emma set Ava down on an exam table covered in crisp white paper. The child clung to her aunt's sleeve, eyes darting nervously. Emma smoothed the girl's hair, cooing softly. She introduced herself to the nurse, confirming names and the nature of the incident. A few minutes later, Dr. Bennett entered. He was a man in his 50s with kind eyes and silvered hair. He wore a calm expression that immediately put Emma somewhat at ease. He approached Ava slowly, respecting the child's space. "Hello, Ava," he said gently. "My name is Dr. Bennett. Your aunt tells me you had a scary morning." Ava did not answer, but her breathing was quieter now. Dr. Bennett asked Emma to explain what happened. She recounted the events haltingly. The park, the horns, Ava's sudden panic, her running into the street, and the brave intervention of Daniel. Dr. Bennett nodded sympathetically, listening without interrupting. Daniel stood near the door, feeling both humble and strangely protective. He watched how Dr. Bennett observed Ava with a gentle gaze. The doctor asked Emma about Ava's recent history, if there had been any traumatic events. Emma swallowed, tears threatening to spill. "Her parents died in a car accident a few weeks ago," she said softly. "A truck, a horn. It all happened so fast. Ava survived, but her voice trailed off." Dr. Bennett nodded, eyes dimming with understanding. He approached Ava, careful not to startle her. He took a stethoscope to her chest, gently watching her reaction. Ava allowed it, though she flinched at the cool metal. Her heart rate was elevated but steadying. The doctor checked for any bumps or bruises from the rescue. There were none, thankfully. "Ava," Dr. Bennett said quietly, "I'm sorry you went through something so scary. Sometimes, after something bad happens, loud noises or certain places can remind us of that feeling. It might make you feel like it's happening all over again." He spoke slowly, as if to a wounded bird he hoped to calm. Emma closed her eyes, realizing what he meant. Perhaps Ava wasn't just scared. Perhaps she was reliving the trauma of losing her parents every time she heard that sound. The horns today might have acted like a trigger, pulling her back into that moment of terror. Dr. Bennett turned to Emma, his voice gentle but serious. "Ava might be experiencing signs of post-traumatic stress. Even very young children can suffer from it after a life-altering event." He paused, letting the words sink in. "She's not just frightened of horns in general. She may be associating them with the crash that took her parents. It's as if her mind is on high alert, expecting something horrible whenever she hears that noise." Emma's face crumpled and she hugged Ava closer. The child clung to her, small hands clutching Emma's sleeve. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had never really considered what trauma looked like in a child so young. Yet here it was painfully clear. The doctor offered a gentle smile. "There are ways to help. Therapy with a specialist who understands childhood trauma might help Ava work through these feelings. It will take time, but children are resilient with the right support." Emma nodded, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. She had come here fearing broken bones or a concussion, but the wound ran deeper than flesh. Still, there was a path forward. The doctor gave her some brochures and contact numbers for therapists who specialized in early childhood trauma. He explained that while medication is rarely the first choice for someone so young, therapy and a stable, supportive environment could ease Ava's anxiety over time. Daniel listened quietly, relieved that there were answers. He had stepped into this family's life at a desperate moment, and now he stood at the periphery of an important discovery. He understood he might have no further role here. He was a stranger who happened to be in the right place at the right time. Yet he felt a sense of closeness to these two people he had met only an hour ago. Emma thanked the doctor, her voice trembling but appreciative. She looked at Ava, who was calmer now, though still withdrawn. "We'll do whatever it takes," she whispered. Ava didn't respond with words, but she leaned her head against Emma's chest, perhaps feeling that something important had been understood, even if she couldn't fully grasp it yet. In that small room, under fluorescent lights and the quiet hum of hospital machinery, hope took root. Ava's trauma had a name and a direction toward healing. Emma clung to that. She would find a therapist, follow the doctor's advice, and slowly guide Ava back toward trust and safety. She also resolved to thank Daniel properly for his selfless act. But for now, she simply appreciated his silent support. A nurse entered to finalize some paperwork. Emma knew their journey was far from over, but at least now they had a first step. Ava's terror would not vanish overnight, but with time and understanding, she could learn to face it and live beyond it. Below are the final 5 chapters, chapters 6 through 10, continuing the same narrative style and tone from the first half of the story. The goal is to add approximately 4,000 words, maintaining the gentle, emotionally resonant storytelling that appeals to an older American female audience. The chapters will focus on Ava's gradual healing process, Emma's growing confidence in helping her niece, and Daniel's quiet presence as a supportive friend. Each chapter will explore new developments, reflecting the slow but hopeful journey out of trauma. In the days following their hospital visit, Emma took several deep breaths before dialing the number Dr. Bennett had given her. The name on the card read, Dr. Karen Morgan, child psychologist. Emma had done a bit of research and discovered Dr. Morgan specialized in working with young children who'd experienced loss or trauma. Her online profile mentioned a gentle, play-based approach, which Emma hoped would suit Ava's delicate state. Ava sat nearby, coloring quietly at the kitchen table while Emma spoke softly into the phone, arranging the first appointment. The sun poured in through the window, illuminating Ava's small figure bent over her drawing. Emma noticed Ava mostly drew simple shapes, circles, lines, a few splashes of color, nothing that suggested a story yet, but at least the girl was engaging with something creative. When Emma hung up, she knelt beside Ava. "Sweetheart, we're going to meet someone who can help us with the scary feelings you've been having," she said gently. Ava paused her crayon, looking at Emma with questioning eyes. Although Ava rarely spoke, Emma sensed curiosity there, maybe even a touch of relief. Emma reached out, stroked Ava's hair, and added, "Dr. Morgan is very nice. She helps children with big feelings." Ava nodded slowly, as if acknowledging she might try this new step. Emma considered that a victory, no tears or protests. Meanwhile, life outside their small household continued. Daniel, the teenager who had saved Ava, sent a brief text message to Emma's phone number, which she'd given him at the hospital. He asked if Ava was doing better. Emma smiled at the screen, grateful for his concern. She replied that Ava was safe and that they were seeking professional help. Daniel responded with a simple thumbs-up emoji. The modern shorthand felt strangely comforting, as if bridging the gap between their worlds. The following morning, Emma and Ava climbed into a taxi for the ride to Dr. Morgan's office. The building was a low, sandstone-colored structure with a small garden out front. A wind sculpture tinkled in the breeze, and a smiling receptionist welcomed them inside. The waiting room had soft chairs and a cheerful rug decorated with animal footprints. Ava clung to Emma's hand but showed no immediate signs of panic. Emma wondered what the therapist would be like. When Dr. Morgan appeared, Emma saw a woman in her late 40s, warm-eyed and patient-looking, with auburn hair pulled back in a loose bun. She greeted Ava as if meeting an old friend, complimenting the child's dress without pressing for a response. Inside the therapy room, Emma marveled at the careful design. Instead of a sterile office, it felt like a child's playroom. Soft lighting, shelves lined with dolls, crayons, puppets, and building blocks. Dr. Morgan explained that her approach involved allowing the child to express feelings through play. There would be no interrogations, just gentle guidance. At first, Ava held Emma's hand tightly, observing the room as though expecting a trap. But Dr. Morgan began by offering a choice of toys. "Ava, would you like to draw with me or play with these animal figures?" she asked softly. Ava hesitated, then pointed a small finger at the crayons. Emma sat quietly in the corner, impressed by how calmly Dr. Morgan moved through the session. The therapist drew a simple flower and showed Ava, who watched closely. Soon, Ava joined in, scribbling a few lines. Dr. Morgan spoke soothingly, acknowledging Ava's silence without pressuring her to speak. She mentioned that sometimes feelings are too big for words and that it's okay to just make colors and shapes. By the end of the session, Ava hadn't spoken, but she had relaxed her grip on Emma's hand. Dr. Morgan smiled, praising Ava's bravery in coming to a new place. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. This was just the start, but already she sensed a glimmer of possibility. Ava could learn that the world was not always dangerous, that there were safe spaces and kind people. On the ride home, Emma held Ava's hand and whispered, "You did so well today. I'm proud of you, Ava leaned into her aunt's side, not smiling exactly, but calmer. One step taken, many more to go. Over the next few weeks, therapy became part of their routine. Once a week, Emma and Ava visited Dr. Morgan's peaceful office. Sometimes Ava chose to draw, other times to stack blocks or guide toy cars around a mini track. Dr. Morgan watched, occasionally introducing a gentle prompt. That car stopped suddenly. Does it feel safe to start again? Or, this doll looks worried. What could help her feel better? Ava rarely answered in words, but her body language gradually changed. She no longer trembled at every distant sound. If a muffled horn reached them from outside, Ava would flinch but then look to Emma or Dr. Morgan for reassurance rather than shutting down completely. Emma practiced small comfort techniques at home too. Dr. Morgan had suggested predictable routines, a gentle bedtime ritual with lullabies, soft lighting, and perhaps a reassuring phrase each night. You are safe, I am here, and we are strong together. Emma repeated these words consistently. The predictability helped Ava anticipate what would happen next, reducing her anxiety. One afternoon, as Emma and Ava sat reading on the couch, Ava more listening than reading, there was a knock at the door. Emma recognized Daniel's voice, calling through softly. Mrs. Thompson? It's Daniel. I just wanted to return something. Emma opened the door, curious. Daniel stood outside holding a small plastic water bottle Emma must have left at the park that frantic day. He'd found it where he dropped his bike, and he thought Ava might like to have it back. Emma smiled, touched by his thoughtfulness. She invited him inside for a few moments. Ava peered at Daniel from behind the armrest. She remembered him, Emma was sure, though Ava did not speak his name. Emma introduced them again. Ava, do you remember Daniel? He helped us that day. Ava nodded and clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest, regarding Daniel with wide eyes. Daniel took a seat on the far end of the couch, giving Ava space. He spoke in a soft voice, telling a silly story about a stray cat he'd seen near his school. There was no mention of the accident or trauma, just an amusing anecdote to fill the silence. Emma could tell Ava listened. She tilted her head slightly, as if considering whether Daniel's story might be safe to accept. Before he left, Daniel offered Ava a small keychain he had found, just a rubber duck with a friendly smile. I thought you might like this, he said gently, placing it on the coffee table so she didn't feel pressured. After Daniel left, Ava crept forward and picked up the duck, squeezing it experimentally. No words, but she seemed curious. Emma took this as a sign that kindness, however modest, was making its way into Ava's guarded world. That evening, while preparing dinner, Emma hummed quietly. She felt hopeful. Dr. Morgan's guidance and Daniel's gentle presence outside therapy were making a difference. Ava would need time, perhaps a lot of it, to fully trust her environment again. Still, Emma sensed the fragile buds of healing. Small gestures of interest, slightly less tension in Ava's shoulders. In the therapy sessions that followed, Dr. Morgan gradually introduced gentle storytelling. She talked about a bunny who heard a scary noise in the forest, but learned to understand it was just the wind rustling leaves. Ava listened, wide-eyed. Emma wondered if Ava could see herself in the bunny. Frightened by sounds, unsure who to trust, but slowly learning that not every sound spelled doom. One crisp morning, as crisp as it could be in the Arizona climate, Emma and Ava set out for another therapy appointment. The sky was a pale blue, and a light breeze tugged at the hem of Ava's dress. Emma noticed her niece seemed a bit restless today, fingers twisting in the fabric of her skirt. Inside Dr. Morgan's office, Ava chose to sit on the floor with a set of toy cars and a miniature roadmap laid out on a rug. Dr. Morgan, seated at Ava's level, observed quietly. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. After several minutes of rolling a tiny blue car back and forth, Ava made an abrupt motion. She pressed the car against the road and let out a small, distressed sound, something between a whimper and a gasp. Emma, seated nearby, felt her heart twist. Was Ava remembering the accident? Dr. Morgan spoke gently. That car looks like it's having a hard time. Do you think it's stuck? Ava's eyes brimmed with tears, and she nodded. For the first time in these sessions, she opened her mouth and said a single trembling word. Loud. Emma sucked in her breath, careful not to react too strongly. Dr. Morgan nodded calmly. Yes, sometimes it's very loud out there. Isn't it? Ava pressed the car down harder, as if trapped. Dr. Morgan continued, when things feel loud and scary, sometimes we think we can't move. But we're safe here. Ava sniffled, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. Emma itched to gather her into her arms, but she trusted Dr. Morgan's process. Instead, the therapist reached for a soft plush dog and placed it next to the car. Maybe this friend can help the car feel safer, Dr. Morgan suggested. Ava hesitated, then gently pushed the plush dog closer, as if offering comfort. Emma realized that in this small, symbolic way, Ava was beginning to externalize her fears. The car might represent that day, the overwhelming noise, the panic. The plush dog was reassurance. Perhaps Emma or Dr. Morgan or even Daniel. It was a step toward understanding that memory, rather than being ruled by it. After the session, Dr. Morgan praised Ava quietly, acknowledging her bravery in showing her feelings. Emma thanked the therapist, voice thick with emotion. On the drive home, Ava looked out the window thoughtfully. She did not cry, but she seemed subdued, as if carrying a heavy but recognized weight. At home, Emma prepared a simple lunch. Ava sat at the table, holding the rubber duck keychain Daniel had given her. Emma spoke softly. You did something very brave today, Ava. You used your voice, even just a little, to tell Dr. Morgan how you felt. Ava did not reply, but she placed the duck carefully beside her plate, perhaps a quiet acknowledgement of safety. Later that afternoon, Emma received a text from Daniel asking if everything was going okay. She told him Ava was making progress in therapy, slowly learning to express her fear. He replied with a simple, "That's great," sending good thoughts. Emma smiled, grateful that even a brief note from Daniel felt like a piece of a support network forming around Ava. Healing, Emma discovered, was never a straight line. A few days later, as they returned from grocery shopping, a sudden horn blast from a nearby intersection startled them both. Ava dropped her small bag of apples, eyes wide with terror. Emma immediately knelt down beside her. "It's okay," she whispered, repeating Dr. Morgan's advice. But Ava's breathing grew rapid, her hands shaking. Emma gently guided her to a nearby bench, encouraging slow, deep breaths. "I know that was loud, but we're safe," she said softly. She pulled out a technique Dr. Morgan had suggested, asking Ava to find something in each color of the rainbow around them. "See that red flower? The green grass?" She pointed them out, helping Ava anchor herself in the present moment. It took several minutes, but eventually Ava's trembling eased. She pressed close to Emma, tears damp on her cheeks. Emma rubbed her back, proud that they had weathered this small storm without panicking. It was a setback, a reminder that Ava's fear was still near the surface. But this time, they had coping tools, and Emma could reassure Ava that they had faced the noise and come out safe. That evening, Emma called Dr. Morgan to share what happened. The therapist congratulated her on using the grounding technique and reminded her that setbacks are part of the healing process. Ava was learning that fear would come and go, but that she had new ways to handle it. Emma also messaged Daniel, who had become a quiet friend on the sidelines. She told him how Ava handled a frightening moment and recovered more quickly than before. Daniel replied with enthusiasm, "That's real progress." Emma felt comforted by his support. He might be just a high school kid, but he had made a significant impact on their lives. The next therapy session reflected Ava's setback and her resilience. Dr. Morgan introduced a gentle story about a little mouse who got scared by thunder but learned that after the thunder passed, everything was still okay. Ava listened intently, fiddling with a soft toy. Dr. Morgan asked if Ava wanted to show what the mouse might do when afraid. Ava placed the toy mouse under a blockhouse, as if seeking shelter, then slowly moved it out again when Dr. Morgan described the storm passing. Emma felt a lump in her throat as she watched. Ava's world still had storms and sudden noises, but perhaps the child was learning that storms did not last forever. With each small triumph, Ava took another step toward a more confident future. Weeks passed and the routines set in. Therapy sessions were steady, each one offering Ava small opportunities to name her fears, even if only through toys or whispered words. Emma followed the nightly rituals Dr. Morgan suggested: soft lullabies, a dim lamp shaped like a crescent moon, and a gentle reminder: we are safe, I am here, and we are strong together. One bright morning, Emma decided to return to the park with Ava. This time she prepared thoroughly. She knew the park was where Ava's panic had ignited, but now they carried new skills. She brought noise-canceling headphones for Ava, just in case. She also planned to keep their visit brief, choosing a quieter time of day when traffic was lighter. As they approached the park, Ava clung to Emma's hand but did not pull away. They reached the bench near the marigolds where they'd sat weeks before. Emma noted that the flowers had changed slightly. Some were now fully in bloom, others fading, a reminder that time had passed. A distant honk sounded, muffled and unthreatening. Ava stiffened, but Emma knelt beside her. "Remember, we are safe," she said softly. "Look at the flowers. Feel the breeze. That sound can't hurt us." Ava looked at the marigolds, her breathing shallow but steady. She gripped Emma's hand and didn't run. Emma smiled through tears. This was the progress Dr. Morgan talked about. Not the absence of fear, but the ability to face it without being overwhelmed. Ava looked at Emma, then at the distant road. She didn't smile, but her eyes were less haunted. She seemed to understand that today was different. As they were leaving, Emma spotted Daniel walking his bike near the sidewalk. He waved, surprised to see them there. Emma waved back, calling him over. Ava watched as he approached, standing a cautious few feet away. "Hi, Ava," Daniel said softly. "It's good to see you outside." He spoke with gentle pride, as if acknowledging her bravery. Ava still did not speak much, but she looked at Daniel and gave the smallest nod. Emma felt a warm surge of gratitude. Surrounded by kindness, Dr. Morgan's steady guidance, Daniel's caring presence, and Emma's own unwavering love, Ava was learning to navigate a world that once felt terrifying. Trauma would always leave traces, but it did not have to define Ava's future. She could discover a place of safety and resilience inside herself. They walked home slowly, hand in hand, the sun shining softly on their shoulders. At the door, Emma noticed Ava clutching the rubber duck keychain. The tiny duck, with its silly grin, had become a silent symbol of hope and friendship. Emma knelt down. "I'm so proud of you, Ava. Look at how far you've come." Ava didn't say anything, but after a moment's hesitation, she reached out and pressed the duck into Emma's hand, as if offering a piece of her trust. Emma's heart swelled. It was the most profound thank you Ava could have given. Inside their quiet home, Emma put on some music, soft, instrumental tunes, and they settled on the couch with a picture book. Ava leaned against her aunt's arm, body relaxed. In the gentle hush of their living room, Emma thought of the long journey they had taken since that terrifying day in the street. Together, they had learned that fear could be understood, that kindness could heal, and that with time and patience, a child's laughter and trust could bloom again.